Hi, I'm Tony Brooks, and this is Agri, Arkansas. Some call it the miracle bean, and there is a version of it on just about every aisle in the grocery store. Last year, total soybean production in Arkansas was at an all-time high, but the actual number of planted acres was down 1% from the previous year. Let's take a closer look now at the soybean in Arkansas.
Arkansas is, I think most people, if you travel around the state, you realize that Arkansas is an agricultural state, very dependent on agriculture, and in row crop agriculture, soybeans is planted on more acres than any other crop. So it's a very significant crop to the state and very important to the economy of the state.
Soybeans is the largest row crop commodity that we have in the state of Arkansas. A lot of people think of rice. It's a huge value base, but when you look at the 3.3 million acres that we grow of soybeans relative to about the 1.1 million acres of rice that we produce here in the state, there's about 3 times as many soybeans per acre produced as rice.
We normally plant over 3 million acres and projecting in 2015 maybe up to 3.5 million acres, which makes us about the 9th in the nation in acreage in production of soybeans.
Joe Thrash. I farm in Faulkner and Perry County. We raise rice, soybeans, wheat, and corn. We're usually 50-50 soybeans and corn. We raise 100 acres of rice on occasion, and we have about 300 acres of winter wheat. The way we look at it on our farm between soybeans and corn is it's a good rotation for us. Like I said, we flip back and forth every year, soybeans and corn on half our irrigated acreage, and it's just a good combination for us. It's good for the soil, it's good for the environment. Soybeans aren't a difficult crop. I won't say they're easy, but it's easier than some other crops that we do raise. Corn makes twice as many bushels per acre, roughly, than soybeans does. But it takes twice or more to produce that twice as many bushels than it does soybeans. You got more labor, more fertilizer, more water, a few more chemicals involved than you do with soybeans, more pests. So soybeans is just a little cheaper to grow than corn, you know, and of course we're always looking at those prices. Bottom line is what you get for it at the end.
I think just talk about the vast number of uses that there are for soybeans. Soybeans go from everything from people eating them all the way to every kind of animal will eat soybeans as some type of ration because it is such an efficient source of protein. We have a lot of the countries around the world where you can't afford meat protein. Soybeans or some type of product like soybeans, an oil seed will be used to provide the meal and some of the protein for their diets.
The uses it's sometimes referred to as the Cinderella crop or a miracle crop because it's used in so many ways. Plastics, foam insulation. Ford Motor Company uses a lot of soy in their automobiles, in the cushions and seats and things like that. And of course, the biodiesel, use of soy oil in formulation with diesel to cut down on the emissions on the interstates and highways is a huge use for soy. The production of soybeans in Arkansas has changed over the last couple of decades somewhat, but one of the advantages of soybeans to the producers is that it has a wide planting window, but the highest yields are usually with the earlier planting.
We plant early soybeans, and we'd like to get them planted in April, but we can plant up till June on soybeans. Corn has a lot narrower planting window than soybeans do. You can plant the soybeans up to June, then we get them up, we take care of them, keep the weeds out of them, keep the pests out of them, and then around the end of August, 1st of September, you start on your corn harvest. Your soybean harvest will run right in after that, say late September, October, November, to get your soybeans harvested into market.
Yields, For 3 consecutive years, we've set a new state yield record. So you can kind of tell that we've had some great growing seasons. And last year, the latest report shows us estimated at 50 bushels per acre. And when I started working for the soybean farmers of Arkansas, a lot of times our state average was 22, 23, 24 bushels per acre, and usually 25 was a good crop. And now we've doubled that. Our soybean growers have doubled that. So we made great strides in the last 20, 30 years, or especially in the last 10, I think.
There's been a lot of discussion as of late about GMOs. GMO is a genetically modified organism. Over 90% of the U.S. soybean crop will be GMOs. There's a number of different varieties of that, but and probably here in the state of Arkansas, even more than that 90%, just because of our growing conditions and some of the weed issues that we have here in the state of Arkansas. And there's a lot of misinformation because people don't understand what it is. All that we're doing whenever we genetically enhance a crop is we're taking what used to take nature decades to do. Through the advancements that we've had in science, we're taking these things down from being decades long to just taking years to do. We find a gene that is resistant to Roundup or resistant to a particular disease, or in some instances, a gene that will enhance the nutritional value of the crop, and taking that from one crop and putting it into another crop. There's been much research done on this, and while there's been a lot of bad publicity on this from multiple sides, there's never been a scientific study that's shown any kind of danger as it relates to this crop.
I think when you look at soybeans as the contribution it makes to the Arkansas economy, and you drive down the highways and you see acres and acres of soybeans, especially over in eastern Arkansas and up the Arkansas River Valley. If you think about it, that on an average acre of soybeans out there, that's going to produce somewhere in the neighborhood of over a ton of soybean meal to feed livestock. That when we go buy the chickens in the supermarket, that's been meal, or high protein meal produced in Arkansas from soybean plants, and 55 gallons of oil is going to be generated from each acre of those 3 million. So what do we do with that oil? There's so many products from it, from vegetable oil to mayonnaise. If you look at some of the containers in your supermarket, you'll see soybean products in many, many products. And it's kind of, I think, maybe something we ought to show a little more appreciation to our producers out there that are making our lives, I think, more healthy and a better quality of life from a renewable resource like soybeans.
We'll talk more about the importance of Arkansas' soybean crop a bit later in our show with Dr. Lanny Ashlock, the Mid-South Soybean Board Research Coordinator, and Dr. Pingyan Chen, Associate Professor and Soybean Breeder for the University of Arkansas. But first, we'd like to introduce you to the Gill family of McGee. They were named 2013's Farm Bureau Farm Family of the Year.
Pretty tough. Mm-hmm. My name's Andy Gill. I'm a farmer from McGee, Arkansas, southeast corner of Arkansas, DeShay County. My family and I farm 3,000 acres of corn and soybeans. 2013, we were selected as the Arkansas Farm Family of the Year. It's been a great honor to represent Arkansas at the Sun Belt in Moultrie, Georgia in 2014.
Yeah, the Arkansas Farm Family of the Year program is a program that's been around since about 1947, so it's one of the longest running programs of its type in the nation. And it basically covers 3 areas. You want to give recognition to all the county farm families, the excellent work that's being done by those families. We also want to let people know in Arkansas how important agriculture is to the state of Arkansas. $16 billion a year, plus 1 in 6 jobs tied specifically to agriculture. And then finally, find out new technologies, kind of trade information among the different farmers so that they can learn from the more successful farmers as to what's going on. So those are the 3 basic components of the Arkansas Farm Family of the Year program.
We operate as a partnership with my wife and I and our son and daughter. The farm's pretty much split up down the middle between us, and our son Andrew, he's been back farming with us for the past 5 years. He went to school and got an ag business degree, and he's been a great help to us. So in 1981, I started farming cotton on 265 acres, and by 1984, I had about 500 acres of cotton.
Smell the dirt.
And in 1985, Shannon and I married, and we've been working together ever since. She handles all the book work and helping keep everything in order and straight, and raised our children, and does different volunteer things in the community, and keeping us straight on the farm.
Well, I do the bookkeeping throughout the year, and during harvest, I usually work every day that they're harvesting to keep up with the incoming and outgoing bushels of corn at the grain bins, and keeping up with the bean tickets, even though we take beans directly to the facility.
Yeah, the Gill family's from Deshay County down in McGee there, and it was Andy Gill and his son Andrew, and they have several thousand acres that they farm there, primarily soybeans, and had an excellent farm, obviously, as the winners last year, and then also competed in the Farmer of the Year program that was in Moultrie, Georgia, which is 10 states that are all in there competing against each other. One of the interesting factors with the Gill farm was they went and developed their own irrigation system, a series of canals that they could draw water from and irrigate their crop. And so that was a huge improvement for them in helping them increase their yields.
I feel blessed that we've had this life as farmers. It's been a very good life. It has made us a good living and allowed us to have our children close by while we were raising them.
I've flown under the radar for the past 30 years and tried to not give many interviews or be in the spotlight at all. And so I'm not used to speaking, and Andrew and I really don't think we make any better crops than anyone else up and down the road. We're just all pretty much about the same as everybody else. A lot of good farmers and people in our part of the world, really good, high yield, good farmers, good people.
Congratulations to the Gill family, Farm Family of the Year for 2013. 2014's Farm Family of the Year, the Reed family out of Lee County, was announced back in December, and we hope to visit with them in the very near future. Arkansas has had many firsts in its past, and now we can add a new one. Edamame is an immature soybean that is popular as a snack food worldwide, but has never been grown and processed in the U.S. until now. The Chung family in Crawford County opened an edamame plant back in 2012.
Where we are today is we're in a field of edamame, and this is up in the northwest part of the state. It's a summertime crop, so we plant in the spring and we harvest in the summer. So right now is September, and we're kind of right in the middle of the peak of the harvest. Edamame is simply soybeans that are still young and green, and we harvest them when they're still in their vegetable state. And so what you get is a nice big pod that's green and tasty, and you can actually bite into the pod, and you can eat the beans inside and you get a nice sweet nutty taste. Originally it came from Japan, and people in Asia have been eating edamame for a very long time, and it's now being enjoyed all around the world, and I even hear stories about people in Europe and Northern Europe starting to eat more and more of it because they eat more sushi, and you know, edamame, you typically find it with sushi. How did edamame come to the state of Arkansas? Well, my family's been in the food business for about 30 years, and we've been in edamame for at least 10 years, and we kind of always thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we could actually make the edamame here in the U.S.? Because what's interesting is that edamame, most of it's actually imported, and the U.S. is the biggest soybean producer in the world, and so we thought, well, hey, you know, why couldn't we do it here? And we were able to connect with folks at the University of Arkansas who do research and who've been researching varieties of edamame that do well here in the state for a number of years, and they connected us with folks in the state who helped us get the funding together, and that's how we got the project off the ground.
But I was contacted by a consultant out of Fayetteville that told me, said, Gary, said, there's a small startup company that's looking at maybe going into different places around Arkansas, and they're kind of looking for a building to start a edamame processing plant. In this Arkansas River Valley, especially in Mulberry area, is very ideal for edamame growing. And the reason is because the Arkansas River would overflow its banks for years and years and years. And that sediment would build up the soil and the nutrients were built up. But since it overflowed, you could not farm it very readily, you know, because you'd have floods. But when we harnessed the Arkansas River with the McClellan Kerr navigation system, put the lock and dams there, and kept the river within the banks, then we're able to farm this very fertile, productive soil. And the very fertile, productive soil in the Arkansas River Valley in our area is ideal for the edamame growing because it gives it that sweet taste. And other parts of the world where they grow edamame, they don't have that type of soil. They may have soil that's been farmed for, you know, thousands of years, hundreds of years, and it's depleted some of the nutrients. And you can't put enough nutrients by fertilizer back in the soil to give it that original nutrient that it has. And so therefore, we're delighted that edamame has found a home in Arkansas. We believe that Arkansas edamame will be known all over the world, just like you know Idaho potatoes, Washington apples, things like that.
We don't have any scientific research necessarily to support it, but it turns out that the soil actually here results in a sweeter flavor for the edamame, and we can actually see it from both our own taste buds and also from consumer feedback. What's really interesting about edamame is that it's a zero waste crop, because what we do is after we harvest the crop, we generate a lot of silage. Those are the hulls and the stems and the leaves that come out of the plant, and we actually supply them to farmers who then use them as feed. And so it really truly is good for the environment in that way. And also edamame is a very high protein, plant-based protein source, and for folks who like to eat their protein and want to maybe perhaps reduce their meat intake, it's a great alternative for that too as well. I actually went to worked on Wall Street for a number of years, and but my family's been in the food business for 30 years, and so I've kind of always had my heart in the food business. And so you know, I'm here full circle, and you know, I'm really happy to be here in the state of Arkansas, and I'm really glad for all the support that we've gotten here, and really looking forward to a great future.
The way that it has affected Mulberry in particular and our county is because when we brought the edamame plant in and started processing, then it has grown and it's already expanded. And what that has happened is it has brought up about 150 jobs. When you take a town of 1655 and you bring 150 jobs in, that has a major impact on the community.
An estimated 900 acres of edamame has been planted around the Mulberry area, and the city of Mulberry holds its Edamame Festival in late March. Joining us now is Dr. Lanny Ashlock, the Mid-South Soybean Board Research Coordinator, and Dr. Peng-Yin Chen, Associate Professor and Soybean Breeder with the University of Arkansas. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. And Dr. Ashlock, we need only look at the 3.3 million acres of soybeans in production in Arkansas to just begin to understand the economic impact of this crop on this state's economy.
That's certainly the situation, Tony. It amounts to almost a $2 billion agricultural industry, just the soybean component. So it is significant.
And Arkansas ranks in the nation in soybean production.
Right, in the top 10 in the nation.
Top 10 in the
sometime
nation.
Between 9, maybe some years up as high as 8th in the nation.
We saw in the report the number of uses for soybeans, not only as an efficient source for proteins for humans and livestock, but I'm looking here at the manufacturing ingredients for everything from biodiesel to plastics. And I'm watching that roll by, and I'm thinking about the research of George Washington Carver on the peanut.
There's certainly some similarity
there.
there.
I believe he did some work on soybeans.
Of course, those crops are related.
Very similar. Have there been any studies on how Arkansas soybeans are utilized, the soybeans that are produced in this state?
Oh, yes. And, of course, the primary use that just dominates the soybean sector of the state is for processing. The beans that stay in the state are processed into soybean meal and soybean oil. And that meal is certainly in high demand for feed rations and the poultry industry, but not just poultry. The entire livestock complex uses soybean as a protein source in their animal feeds.
And of course, you get into the manufacturing of all these other products, they're using soybean oil in that.
Right, the oil
ingredient.
then, right, is that other major component, and it's used in the uses that we looked at there a few minutes ago.
Okay. The production of soybeans has changed so dramatically in the last few decades, and when we talked about yields, and you pointed out that, and even I can recall growing up on a soybean farm in southeast Missouri, and when we would say, well, we're going to project we'll make 30 bushels an acre, that was a good crop.
Oh, yeah.
And now, as you pointed out, that's doubled. What can be the factors that we attribute this dramatic increase?
Well, we have a soybean breeder here with us this afternoon, so that's certainly been a major part of it, is the varieties that these breeders have developed for us. But our soybean producers are doing a remarkable job, and they're doing it as efficiently as science has led the way as far as new production technology. They adopt these practices and put them into place, and we're doing very well in that regard. And I think one of the things that used to be frustrating to me, Tony, when you talk about the way things used to be, is that even when we had a pretty good year, it seemed like we'd have diseases or something would happen that we weren't able to take advantage of a good production environment. And now, with the varieties that we have, the technology that these growers are using, we're able to capture that. And I think the last 3 years, with those record yields, show that they are doing a very efficient job.
Is making the point. Dr. Chen, how has plant breeding increased not only the production level of soybeans, but also increased the nutritional value of soybeans?
Well, just like Dr. Andy just mentioned, the yield improvement over the years is attributed to two factors. One is the genetic improvement of the yield potential by variety development. The other component is the improvement of the management practice. But by and large, the most contributions coming from the genetic improvement. Mm-hmm. On average, breeders improve the yield about 1/3 of bushel per year as we move forward. So, and that's a yield improvement. The other areas of improvement, including the seed quality traits, seed composition traits, disease packages, and adaptation to different production system environment. So we as breeders, we try to tweak the genetic makeup of the plants to produce more, adapt widely to the environments, and with improved yield and the quality traits. Yes.
And you've been very successful in doing that.
Yeah, we have been. Yeah.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we talked about the GMOs, and they mentioned that in the package, the Roundup Ready soybeans. And the main criticism I've heard from is about the chemical glyphosate, the ingredient in Roundup, and not from the safety of the soybean itself. I mean, this change makes the soybean resistant to glyphosate, and so it helps with weed control, but it doesn't impact the nutritional value of the soybean.
Yeah, it doesn't impact the nutritional value at all. And numerous studies have been conducted and even feeding trials using components that were processed from these GM varieties. And under peer review, none of those has shown any detrimental effects on that relationship.
And it's not just in soybeans. I mean, that technology has been used in corn and alfalfa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything else. What direction are we looking now as far as soybean breeding in Arkansas?
We're going to continue our breeding effort towards conventional variety development with better adaptation and better disease package, and also improved yield. And also we're looking at new technology that might serve a good purpose for crop management, including herbicide tolerant traits. And then we have another component that can keep improving the nutritional quality attributes for feed and even human consumption, soy food market as well.
Okay, you got about a minute left. What are some of the challenges facing Arkansas soybean farmers in coming years? I'd address this to both of you.
Okay, well, I know that the soybean farmers have invested a lot into research with their checkoff dollars, and I think they would say some of the same challenges that they faced 20 and 30 years ago still exist. A fluctuating market. We can have good years like we've had recently, or we can have some very challenging years. So, and what they remind me occasionally is that there's one thing worse than low prices. That's low yields and low prices. So they're certainly trying to do everything they know to do to keep the yields up, even when there are low prices.
And your work's going to continue at the university to make sure those yields remain up and you get a good, strong plant.
Definitely, our farmers has irrigation, and we have a good piece of land, and we have research behind the scenes to develop varieties with better productivity and probably our profits as well. And hopefully the future remains bright, and we work together and make contribution to the industry of soybean production as a whole.
Very good. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Enjoyed having you, and we've enjoyed having you, and we hope you'll join us again next time. For Agri Arkansas, I'm Tony Brooks.
Major funding for this program provided by the Moving Image Trust Fund. Additional funding for this program provided by the Arkansas Agriculture Department.